Nick Kiprios here for The Real Kipper at noon. Doug McLean off today. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to look at the 5 games tonight, but more importantly, just focus on the marquee matchup. And I've got it as the Edmonton Oilers versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. And maybe it's even more than that. We know it's more than that. No maybes about it. Connor McDavid versus Auston Matthews. A few months ago, when we were in the bubble, we often talked, and many of you have debated who the second best player in the NHL universe is. And we know Connor McDavid stands alone in that conversation. At least the majority of you certainly have him as the best player in the world. And then we found out that Nathan MacKinnon kept getting better and better, even looking at maybe restructuring the record book with his consecutive point streak in the bubble. That didn't happen, but MacKinnon certainly made his mark. Now tonight, we have another player that could get himself in the conversation of being one of the best players in the world, and that is Auston Matthews. And while in the past, both these teams would play each other in a home and home, much different scope now with the Canadian division. So what was a one-off between these two guys in a normal regular season, it's now set up that these guys will face each other in this Northern Division 9 or 10 times. That sets up a legitimate head-to-head battle amongst the best players in the game. So while we still may look at Nathan MacKinnon being /1B in the topic of conversation, we will tonight slide in Auston Matthews. Now, Auston certainly comes in feeling, I think, a little better about his team than Connor McDavid. Leafs are coming off 2 big, strong starts and wins, especially the one against Winnipeg, where conceivably people question whether or not the Leafs have a shutdown mode in their game to win. That was pretty convincing against the Winnipeg Jets. Connor, on the other hand, comes in not feeling as great, I think, as Auston Matthews. He comes off 2 losses against Montreal. And the bread and butter, the momentum that they always had with that power play is virtually gone. Now, when we look at both these players from a numbers perspective, we, of course, know that Connor owns the total points at 474 compared to Auston Matthews 289. But where they're almost neck and neck is the goal scoring department. Matthews only 6 goals behind Connor's career 165, which is quite remarkable because he's 69 games less. Of course, they're virtually the same age, but Connor gets the extra season because of Auston Matthews' late birthday. So the hype was always there as first pick overall, 2015 for Connor McDavid, 2016 for Auston Matthews. It's set up rather well. Before we even break down their games as individuals, let's touch a little bit on why Connor doesn't feel as good as Auston does with his respective club. And that is, of course, that we can talk about how great they are as individuals, but you win from the net on out. And there's so much talk about Frederik Andersen being on a short leash this year and whether or not he'll be the future goaltender of the Toronto Maple Leafs. But there's one thing that Auston does feel a little better about, and that he has the ability to win a game on his own. Auston will argue all day long that Freddie has won him more games on his own than Connor McDavid has any goaltender in the last 6 seasons as an Edmonton Oiler. When you get out of the net, you look at a blue line. Now, there's a lot of question marks on whether this blue line's good enough for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But again, Auston's got to feel better about his blue line than Connor does about his. Now, Darnell Nurse has turned into a great NHLer. Can he get to a place where he's an all-star? Remains to be seen. But when you look at Connor McDavid, that is the best that he has. With Klefbom out all season, Darnell Nurse has to be that guy. He's the highest paid guy. In fact, he makes more than Morgan Riley at $5 million. Now, Morgan Riley, we can say definitively, is closer to a Norris conversation than anything on the Edmonton Oilers. Now, Connor has other players that he can lean on, most notably Leon Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins. But when it comes to world-class talent around you, that's where it ends. And I'm not saying that Nugent Hopkins is a world-class talent, but he is a very good player. Tyson Barrie, they thought that could come in and layer it up for Connor McDavid, but that just hasn't happened. And more alarming is the fact that he hasn't looked great on a power play. Now let's move up to the forwards for a split second here. While Auston has world-class talent all around him, where does Connor's world-class talent lie? And I like Nugent Hopkins a lot. But Nugent Hopkins could be more compared to a Zach Hyman for Auston Matthews than he could Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and John Tavares. And that's where probably Auston doesn't feel the weight of the world on his shoulders, much like Connor does going into tonight's contest. And that essentially is where the problem lies. So one player can stand as world-class talent for Connor on that hockey club. Just one. Leon Draisaitl. And guess what? They can't play together. They can't have a 5-on-5 situation where Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are on the ice at the same time. Well, they can when they need a goal, and we've seen that. But over the consistency of a regular season, over the chance to think that you could advance in a playoff series, that just can't happen. It's just not enough. So these guys come from different worlds. And tonight, unfortunately, for Connor, it's going to have to look like we've seen already in this early season. Go Connor or go home. And Auston Matthews, of course, has a chance, much like a dog marking his territory. This is the first of many games he gets to go against Connor McDavid. And he can start a conversation, much like we had, 15 years ago with Ovechkin versus Crosby. This is a statement game for Auston Matthews as far as I'm concerned. You guys want to talk about Nathan MacKinnon being next in line to the throne? Well, how about me tonight? And you've got to give the Leafs the advantage here overall with Auston Matthews. As we found out from generation to generation, so many things have changed with the game. But here's the one thing that never changes. Great players don't win championships. Great teams do. It's still debatable whether the Toronto Maple Leafs are truly Stanley Cup contenders, but I can tell you at least from Auston Matthews' eyes and even Connor McDavid's, the Leafs program is a hell of a lot more advanced than the Oilers. Another tale tonight for me, outside of the McDavid versus Matthews, is how hard Connor's teammates play and show up for Connor on this big stage. We can all sit back and say still, Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, 1A, 1B. Okay, you got me there. But what we can't say is Nathan versus Connor is a matchup we'll see 9 times. This is why Matthews has got a terrific opportunity now to take his game and maybe legacy to another level. It'll be fun tonight. Joe and Jordan, I know you guys are anxious to watch this matchup.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how these players really line up. I like to look at everything from the business perspective. If I'm McDavid, I want to win, or I want to go somewhere that will help me win. That's it. That's the beginning and end of my thought for everything.
Well, we teed up tonight's matchup, and I can honestly say that that's a conversation that I hope for Oiler fans is one that doesn't necessarily start anytime soon, because we know it's been 6 seasons now for Connor, Jordan, and he's a frustrated guy. We talked about that with Doug McLean the other day, but he made a commitment on a long-term deal, and I'm sure his focus is still to turn this program around, but the rumblings are out there. The rumblings seem to not subside. In fact, they get a little stronger every time the Oilers struggle. But once again, I'll say this. Tonight can go a long way for the Oilers and Connor McDavid with a big effort, and maybe even more importantly, needing a W to turn this thing around early this season.
So, Kipper, let me ask you a question here as we close up. We're starting a fake team. We're in a completely hypothetical situation. You have the ability to pick things, pick players, pick salary caps, all these things. Who do you pick first? How do you start? How do you start over? How do you find a way to win? What's your move, GM Kip?
I don't think many hockey people would ever take a lot of time thinking that it would be anyone else other than Connor McDavid. When you look at the skill level and the wow factor, you appreciate Auston Matthews' ability to score and shoot the puck. You appreciate Nathan MacKinnon and what he's been able to do, especially in the last, 12, 16 months. But the true wow factor will come watching Connor McDavid skate from one end to the other. Beyond how it can affect your team or help you win, it's your first look at a player and marvel at his skill level and that third and fourth gear that nobody else has. It's an easy choice. It's Connor McDavid. Regardless of who you think are the 2 top players in the world, we get to see something pretty special tonight when McDavid and Matthews go. So enjoy it, because it's the first of 9 tonight against the Oilers and the Leafs. We appreciate it. It's great for hockey. Sit back and relax, and we'll see you Friday. Hope you enjoyed that segment, Auston Matthews versus Connor McDavid. And if you're a first-time watcher, hey, subscribe. We'll let you know when we're coming on. You can get all the latest hockey stuff right here on The Real Kipper at Noon show. We'll see you Friday.